looking at the problems from compound interest. So here's the first one, number 87, and it goes with the A and B. So we want to find the future value if we invest $8,906.54 for 9 years at 5% compounded semi-annually versus compound continuously. So semi-annually, that would be A equals P 1 plus R rate, which is going to be 0.05 over N, which is semi-annually, so that's 2 times, and then raised to our N2 times 9, our years. This one over here is going to be A per because it's compound continuously, our principal, times E raised to our rate, which is 0.05, times our time, which is in years, which is 9. Okay, so we're going to plug in our principal. One plus our rate, 0.05, make sure it's in a decimal, over N number of times, semi-annually is 2 times, raised to 2 times 9. So a total of 18. 18 times it's going to be compounded. 0.05. 0.05 divided by 2. 0.025. And again, you could plug all this into the calculator and it'd give you the answer. So we get 1.025 raised to the 18th, and then I'm going to multiply by 8906.54. So I have 1.559 blah 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 blah, right, times by 8906.54. Now in my calculator I don't want to round that number inside that parentheses, so I need to make sure that I keep that under the answer and times that by the 89 if you do it the long way, 0.06 times 5.4. Then at the end, as we get $13,891.16, and then I can round that 16 cents, right? So that is semi-annually. Now let's come back and let's do continuously. So again, my principal is the same, 8406.54. E raised to the 0.05 times T, which is 9. So that one, 0.05 times 9. Luckily that's not a decimal that goes on for a long time, so you can do that by hand and then push E and raise it to that. So E is second, or shift ln, and 0.45, we can enter that in, and we get 1.5 yada 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 yada. So again, I want to keep that number in there, so don't round that, just times that by our 8406.54. So times that by 8406.54. And so that is 13,184. Somewhere's off because continuously should be bigger than this one. So let me go back and check that work. So I can see where I went wrong here, right here. Not 8406, it is 8906.54. Mix up my 4s and 6s and stuff, so I need to take my E raised to 0.45 and times that by the right number, 8906.54. Then I get a larger number, which is 13,968. So that is bigger, 0.224. So now I can round because it was 235. So now it's 0.24. Okay, so that's 87A and B. Okay, so 89 is saying you want to find the present value. So that means we're after P. Present value is what we put in. So P we do not know, but it gives us how much we get out we want to grow $25,000, so we want to get out $25,000. How much do we have to put in, right? That's what this is asking. If we invest at 6%, so there's our rate, which is 0.06. Make sure you put it as a decimal. And we're going to compound quarterly, so that's talking about this one. Okay, quarterly. So our N is 4 times a year, because it's quarterly. There's 4 quarters in a year. And then for 11 quarters. Okay, and so 11 quarters. Our time is going to be, there's 4 quarters in a year, so that is 3.75 years. Okay, so our T is 3.75. So now we're going to plug this in and figure it out. Okay, so we know how much we want to get out, 25K. And we don't know how much we're putting in, so we leave it as P. 1 plus our rate, which is 0.06, over how many times in a year I'm doing it, which is 4, raised to NT. And remember, NT is how many times total, right, over the years, how many times you do it. So here we could put 11 because it says for 11 quarters, so that means we're doing it 11 times. Or we can do our 4 times 3.75 because that's how many years are in 11 quarters. If it was 12 quarters, then it would be if it was 11 quarters, that would be 2.75, right? Because it'd be 4 quarters in a year, so 3 times 4 is 12, right? So it would be 3 years if it was 12 quarters, but it's not. It's 11, so 2.75 times 4 is going to be 11. So NT is either 11. It's 11. Okay, then I can enter this almost into my calculator, right? I can enter this part into my calculator and figure what that number is, and then take 25,000 and divide it by that answer. So let's go ahead and just do that. So I'm going to enter all this into my calculator. It's going to go parenthesis 1 plus parenthesis 0.06 divided by 4 parenthesis. Then I want to do another parenthesis. And then I want to hit the hat button. And I'm going to do 11. I'm going to press enter. So I have 1.17 yada 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 yada. I do not want to round this. And that's times by P, right? Over 25,000 equals 25,000. So I'm multiplying by P, so that means I want to divide by my 1.7-ish stuff on both sides. So I don't want to round to 1.17. What I want to do is just type in the calculator, type in 25,000, and hit second or shift or whatever my answer buttons. I want to take 25,000, push divided by answer, and sometimes that answer is underneath the negative sign. Sometimes it's alone just by answer. So you got to find that button on your calculator. So I'm going to take 25,000 and I'm going to divide that by my answer, and it's going to give me $21,223.33. So now I can round it. And probably here you want to round it up, right? All right, so that's how much we have to invest in order to get 25,000 back in 9 years when we have a 6% interest. Okay, so 93 is finding the interest rate. So find the annual interest rate nearest tenth to the nearest 10th percent for $12,000. So that's our principal, $12,000 to grow. So this is the money that's growing, right? So that would be the principal, and we want it to grow to, so the actual amount after we invest is $1,500, and for 5 years, and it says compounded quarterly, so our N is 4. So now we can go, since now we know which formula we're going to use because it said quarterly. going to be this one. So we can enter in all our information. So A is 1500, P is 1200. We don't know our rate, because that's to leave it as R, and then point, what did it say? The number of times was 4, quarterly, and then 4 times years is 5. Okay, so we can start simplifying this. We're trying to get R by itself. So right now it's multiplied by a principal, this parenthesis, so we need to divide. So 1500 divided by 1200, that's basically 15 divided by 12. Right, 15 divided by 12, both go into it by 3, right? So it's 5/4. 1 plus R over 4 and 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so now we got to think back to a lesson ago, the first section of chapter 4, and how do we get rid of the exponent of 20? Well, we multiply the exponent, or raise the exponent to 1 over 20, right? So 1 over 20, and then we got to take this exponent, or this base, and raise it to, or multiply my exponents by 1 over 20. So this is going to cancel on this side, so we get 1 plus R over 4 equals, and here you can do this on your calculator, right? So, or we can wait to the very end, so then we don't have to round. Because if I take 5/4, 1.25, and raise that to the 1/20th, which you can do on your calculator by just taking 1.25 and hitting the hat button and hit 1 divided by 20, and that will give you your answer. And it's 1.01 blah 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 blah. So I don't want to erase that number, right? So I want to keep that number in there, and that equals 1 plus R over 4. So I'm trying to get R by itself, so first I need to subtract 1, so subtract 1 from that, so I'm going to minus 1. So in this number in my calculator, I don't want to erase it, don't want to round it, just leave it in there, and then I'm going to subtract 1 from it, so subtract 1. So there's that number, it's about 0.101 blah 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 equals R over 4. Okay, so again, don't round that number yet. Now how do we get rid of dividing by 4? We multiply by 4 on both sides. So just take that answer in your calculator and put times 4 equals. Now that number is by itself. So now we can go take that 0.04, and it says to the 10th, right? To the 10th percent. So it's 4, 8, and this is 8. So I'm going to round it here right now, okay, because it says percent. So this is a decimal, so first we need to move that decimal over, so we get 4.488. I rounded this number, but it says, so this is a percent, and now it says round to the 10th, nearest 10th percent, so this right here, so now we can round that, so 4.5%, so that would be our rate. Okay, so there's the rate, 4.5%. Again, you know, I didn't even have to round this right here. I could have just left it in my calculator and then moved it over those two decimal places and then went and round it. But I was kind of safe because it was asking for the tenths. So that's looking for, if the decimal is right here, then it's 3 spots away that I really need to round it. Okay, so let's do number 90. Okay, so number 95 is comparing loans. So these are loans that you're taking out, right? So if you're getting loaned money, that means you have to pay it back, right? So you'd rather have a smaller interest, right? You want to pay less interest because that means less total money you have to give back to the bank. Okay, so let's look at these 3 banks. Let's look at their interest rates. So we have Bank A with 6.4% interest, and then it's compounded annually, so our N would equal 1. Okay, so this is our percent. Bank B, our rate is 6.3%, and compounded monthly, so our N is 12. All right, and then C is 6.35%, and it's compounded quarterly, so N is 4. And we'll see how much we want to see, basically how much interest we collect. Well, first we have to find how much we can go ahead and our P could be anything. So if you want to let your P be 1,000, it can be 1,000. It could be 1. You might as well let it be 1 because multiplying by 1 is pretty easy. So we're just going to find the amount in the counts. Say we invest $1 and we want to see how much do we get back when we put in $1, and then subtract our total versus how much we put in. So really for this problem, you can really put in any P that you want to, okay, as long as it's the same for all 3 banks. You can do the T, the time, the same, as long as it's all the same T for all 3 banks. Okay, so let's do a P as 1 because 1's pretty easy. Multiplying 1 is the same. So if we plug in 1 for P, let P equal 1, and T also equal 1. Those are really easy, right? So let's do A in red. So bank A, we want to find how much is in the count. This stands for the amount in the count, or future value. Okay, so that is P1 times what's in parentheses, just what's in parentheses, right? Our rate for the first one is 0.664, so 0.064 all over N, and our N was annually 1, and raised to 1 times N, which is just 1. So this is 1.064. So I would get $1.64 back. So that means my interest would be taking my principal and minusing my account, the money in the account at the end. So my interest collected would be 0.064. Okay, for bank A. Now let's go ahead and do bank B. Let the principal be 1 and let the time be 1. And so then we get 1 plus 0.063 over how many times? 12. And again, our N times T would be 12. Okay, so now I'm going to have to use the calculator here, and again, you can plug all that in there if you want to, or you can do one step at a time. You can divide 0.063 divided by 12, which is 0.00525. Can't round that, and then I want to add 1, so that's 1.00525 raised to the 12th. So I'm going to raise that to the 12th. And I'm going to get 1.06485 and 13, and it keeps on going. So here, this first one was exactly that, right? So now I got to subtract, so that's the amount in the count. Now I got to subtract 1, my principal, and that's going to give me my interest, right? So the interest for this one is going to equal 0.06485. So even though I could round it and it would be the same as this one, well, if I round it, wouldn't it be? It would be 0.065, right? So this is a little bit more interest on that being collected. So we don't want that one, right? So we want the one 0.064. Now let's go ahead and do the last bank, and that is bank C. So bank C, principal is still going to be 1. Interest rate is 0.0635 over how many times I'm doing it, which it said is 4 times quarterly. 4, and then raised to 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, so again, you can type that all in at once, or you can do it one at a time. Take your rate and divide it by your how many times per year, which is 0.015875. So that might be rounded. That last 5 might be rounded. So I'm just going to push plus 1 in there. So it's 1 point that, and then I want to push the hat button, and I'll raise it to 4, and that equals 1.065, yada 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 yada. Now I want to subtract my principal, 1, and so my interest for this one is 0.0652. and it keeps on going. So this one is bigger than the 0.64, right? So again, I want to erase this one because since it's money back, that means that if I want to pay back, I want to pay less interest. So this one, this one's going to pay less interest. So bank A is the one to go with. If we were investing money, then bank B or bank C, I can't recall which one the decimals was bigger, but I think probably bank B would be the one. Okay, so there's number 95. So that's all done.